So this is project management, and the first thing we need to talk about is what is a project. The Project Management Institute defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a new product, service, or result. Um, One of the key features is temporary. So if you're building something new that's going to keep running, the building is the project, not. So if you're putting in a new security system, putting in the security system is the project. Running the security system is not the project because it's temporary. Um, some examples, like we can have big ones and small ones. We can be installing a new computer system. We can be relocating a large data center, updating a student registration system, something that Robert Morris is going to be doing soon. Redesigning a departmental website, or creating a new video game. All those are projects. They're temporary, and they have some specific result that they want to do. Some important considerations about projects are some projects are thought of as very formal. You have a project proposal, everybody knows about it as a project with clearly defined limits, and some are just sort of vague and, oh yeah, we got to update the website, right? Um, some of that depends on the size of the organization. In big organizations that have a lot of structure, project management and projects tend to be clearly defined, even if they're small. Whereas in smaller organizations, projects seem to be less formally defined, but they're still projects and still need some management. One of the other things to think about when you're talking about a project is someone paying for it. Even if it's internal, it could be internal, external, but there's somebody who's responsible for paying for it. And if it has a budget line and it's a temporary thing, it probably is a project. Um, and the other thing is it really temporary? Some projects sort of take on a life of their own and just last forever. Again, updating a website. Updating departmental website may be a project. Keeping the website current, that's sort of less of a project and becomes a part of business operations. Um, in the IT world, one of the things that we want to talk about is, well, especially in the IT world, is that we're working with people, and the personnel are the key ingredient. But that's still used in almost all projects. We're going to be working with people. And because the projects are temporary, most of the people assigned to the project have real jobs somewhere else. And so you as a project management, they don't work for you. You have to get people to do stuff for you, but they don't actually work for you. And the people who are deciding on their raises and their pays and their promotions may want them to be doing something else. They may be assigned to work on this project, but in reality, their boss may want them to be working on their projects, and he's the one or she's the one who's going to be deciding their raise next year. So a lot of the project manager's job is dealing with personnel issues. Um, we're going to talk about that. And not just managing down, but managing up. So the people who hired you to do the project, the sponsor or the person paying for it, oftentimes the CFO, you have to sort of manage them as well. Um, and this gets into, when we talk about the budget, we have to talk about project selection. And it's one of the things that the PMI definition does not talk about value, but it often comes up that a project has to have generate some value for the organization. Some people talk about value and some people talk about benefits. And the quick definition is value is monetary and benefits are non-monetary. Um, so goodwill, increased name recognition, things like that. I'm not really a firm believer in those distinctions, but I do believe that projects should have some benefit or value associated with it when you're trying to decide whether to do them or not. Um, where do projects come from? In companies, just upgrading infrastructure. Like I mentioned earlier, Robert Morris is going to upgrade their student system. That's what keeps track of student records, does registration. It's old. It needs upgraded. So it's going to be a project for that to happen. Companies need to expand. They're always expanding, so they need to install new services, new buildings, whatever it is. So to expand, there's going to be something new. And they need to modernize, putting in web services, upgrading their networks. As they move to new technologies, that usually some project are involved to that. Just maintaining old systems is also a project. It may not be modernizing in the sense that you're upgrading to different machinery. It's just that the old machinery needs replaced with new old machinery. Um, Expanding into new markets is another way. When you're talking about companies you expand, if you're moving into new markets, normally you have to do something different than you were doing before, and that means usually some sort of project. Um, when you have a project, usually there's some proposal that people talk about. The proposal, again, can be formal or informal, and we're going to look at official project proposals. And one of the items in there is budget items. And in this case, we start talking about where projects come from. A lot of times they come from what you learned or should have learned or will learn in system analysis. System analysis is looking at systems to somehow improve them. And if you have a way to improve a system, you're going to make it a project to have that done. So why don't you look at the connection between system analysis and project management next?